What's up, everybody? Welcome in. It's that time of week yet again. Sooners on SI podcast. Ryan Chapman here. We got the whole squad. We've got 918 Hoove. John, first off, hello. Good afternoon. How are you?
Oh, great, man. The weather is just exactly what I want. 50s and 60s. Can we keep it like this for a little while, please?
Well, here's the thing. We're all gonna say keep Carson in our thoughts because he may get wet and cold on Saturday. Before we
Yeah.
get to Carson Aber, I do have to ask this, John. It is crossover season. Happy crossover season officially, everyone. We got college basketball exhibitions happening, all that stuff. The check-in. How was Mrs. H last night with the officiating? Certainly, the officiating late was it a calm environment for the pups, or did they have to hit the road and go elsewhere for
Yeah,
about 25 minutes?
the dogs got down off the couch and went in the other room for a little while Mrs. Hoover was watching the Thunder open the season appropriately. Holy cow, were those refs bad? My wife watches the game, and if you listen to her, it's hilarious. She kind of approaches it as a coach, but also kind of like a mom, but also kind of like a drunk fan in Loud City. I mean, she's screaming, "Oh yeah, cut this out!" So that's awesome. It's awesome.
Could have been
82
worse.
of those bad boys.
I imagine it couldn't have been worse than I did turn to the great Jesse Crittenden, our pal, and was like, I wonder what Matt Pinto has to say about everything happening right now.
Oh,
We will.
Well, I wasn't listening to the entire I was watching by the time all the end stuff happened, but Matt Pinto was losing his mind in the first half when I was listening a little bit on the radio. So I can only imagine what it was like there late when KD calls a timeout and everything.
I hope Zach Zarba brought his helmet because Matt Pinto might be the first one to chuck something. Carson, good afternoon. Welcome in. Carson, fresh off the SEC teleconference. We'll talk to him about everything Brent Venables had to say. But the squad opens up this evening. Who does Denver got? Who do the Nugs have?
This says how much of a bad fan I am. I'm not sure who they play tonight, but I do know
Crossover season.
I'm not a huge NBA guy, if I'm being totally honest. I kind of just don't really watch because I'm a big college football, college basketball guy. Once the Nuggets are in the playoffs, then I'm kind of invested at least a little bit, not as much as most Thunder fans are. So I will be the first to admit I'm a casual, but excited for this week's OU-Ole Miss game. Going to be a good one. And other than the rain, kind of excited about the weather, as you mentioned. Nice to have a little bit cooler temperatures.
Yeah, it's hard to like truly lock in until the college season has come and gone. Check in for opening night. We'll see. I guess we need to check in. Aber, how's the hockey shaping up? Are we good? Thumbs up? Are we shake? What are we at?
Yeah, it's been a fairly good start for the Penguins. So I'm happy with how things are going there. They need a bounce back after a rough year last year, but 5-2 so far after win last night. So I'll take it.
I saw this is near and dear to my heart. This tells you what kind of hockey enjoyer I am. I did not realize that Brad Marchand was no longer a Boston Bruin, but I was like, hey, he's coming back to Boston. I got to see this because I have played a lot of NHL with Marchand, Patrice Bergeron. I was like, oh my God, that even got me as someone who was like, I didn't know he was gone. But the return, I was like, anytime you have hockey players that are like clearly misty, I'm like, oh God, what is going on?
Yeah, who knew that Brad Marchand had a heart?
Who knew? Who knew? Indeed. All right, enough of that. Let's dive in. It's Ole Miss week. Oklahoma successful. Thanks for everyone coming to hanging out for the post-game pod with Carson and I back in Columbia. Boys, John, Ryan, the Sooners discovered a little bit of a rushing attack. It took them one whole drive to rack up more rushing yards than they had against Texas or Auburn individually. By halftime, they had overachieved both of those efforts combined, and that feels like it's going to be really, really important this week. We'll talk about the weather a little bit. We'll talk about the continued path back for John Mateers. He feels much better, but it was needed. It was really, really important. It's what we were asking for through the first 4 weeks of the year, and though South Carolina's rushing defense is not a elite unit by any means, it came into last week in the 70s of rushing yards per game, 60s of yards per carry. Though Dylan Stewart exited very, very early, you look at it, John, this week, it's an Ole Miss rushing defense that's almost 100. I believe they're 98th in the country coming into this thing. And you look at it and go, hey, They give up big plays. They're 60s and 20 plus yards per play allowed, 20 plus yard plays allowed, excuse me. They're in the 70s in 30 plus yards plays allowed, Ole Miss's defenses. And it needs to be a moment where Oklahoma builds and continues to grow, especially as they come back home.
Oklahoma's going to have to, at some point, open the doors to the barn and let the horses run on offense, meaning they're going to have to score some points. They're going to have to rally. They're going to have to keep up with somebody at some point. The defense is going to falter. We saw it against Texas. Ole Miss has got an offense that could do that to you. Ole Miss has got an offense that can score 28, 30 points, 35 points. So what does that mean? Even on this defense, right? So what does that mean for this Oklahoma offense? It means they need to keep the football. Means they need to be able to sustain long drives like they did at South Carolina. It means that they're going to have to answer some scores, right? They're going to get scored on. They're going to give up a 50-yard touchdown or something at some point in this game or the future games. And they're going to have to turn around and answer some scores. And that means you can't put everything on the single wing quarterback that is John Mateer. You're going to have to get a running game going. I didn't think they could do it. We sat in this spot last week, I think, saying it's time for OU to go full air raid with 4 wide receivers and run verts if you have to, or just get outside the numbers. I didn't think Oklahoma could do it, run the football, but they did. They kind of went back to the drawing board. I don't know, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like there were fewer, maybe, RPOs, fewer decisions for John Mateer to have to make, fewer times that the offensive line was just kind of blocking a space or a zone, and more opportunities for that offensive line to fire off the football, hit somebody, engage with them, and drive them out of the hole, and let the running back pick where he wanted to go. It looked like there was more of that to me.
Yeah, I think there was more of that. I think the offensive line continues to evolve. And we saw, last week, I think them take a fairly significant step forward after some of the struggles that they've had. But they've got to be able to do that, to run in a traditional running game, not just, again, rely on John Mateer to make plays there. And I thought it was really encouraging that even in a game where Mateer, I don't think, was certainly at his best, but they didn't need him to be at his best. They needed him to manage the offense, not put them into bad positions. He was able to do that, and then the rest of the offense around him, specifically the offensive line and Torrey Blaylock and some Xavier Robinson, were able to lift that group and give them, I thought, one of their more. I don't think it was their most impressive performance offensively of the year, but maybe their most encouraging offensive performance.
It felt like and Carson, you probably got a really good beat on this being down by the sidelines. It felt like the calmest operation too, just because it was like you're able to run the football. You're not having to be in tons of third and longs, things like that. And I really, really think as much as the offensive line deserves its flowers, which certainly we'll continue to talk about here throughout this week, that'll be a big key, Carson. It just felt like paring that running back rotation down to saying it's Torrey Blaylock and Xavier Robinson. It gave those two guys a chance to get into rhythm, to get comfortable running behind that line. And it was a much improved line. But, Carson, I thought that made a big difference. And I think that's really going to be key going forward, because it seems like they've just made that determination of let's roll with these two guys. And if anybody else is needed or necessary kind of comes along, then even better.
Yeah, no, I think that was huge. And I mean, we've talked about the potential that both Blaylock and Robinson have. Blaylock's shown it this year. This was his first time doing it against a Power 4 defense, though. He struggled against Auburn, struggled against Michigan, struggled against Texas. Not saying that's his fault that he struggled, didn't put up big numbers. The blocking was obviously bad. The blocking was good this time, and Blaylock took advantage. He looked great, also caught a couple passes, and same with Robinson. We talked about his versatility last week, his ability to be a pass catcher. I think that's huge. Just giving Mateer another option, as seems like he's getting closer to 100% healthy. I don't think anyone really knows if he's fully there, still a little bit back, but he looked really comfortable, and I think a big part of that is how much pressure was taken off of him just because of how good the running backs were, how good the line was. It felt like every time something didn't go the way of OU's offense against South Carolina, they always had a good response, whether that's Isaiah Satania dropping that pass, John Mateer's near interception in the third quarter. I felt like the responses were always good, and I think that's a result of the balance that they had on Saturday.
Something I noticed, guys, is that we sat here and called for more spread or air raid or more passes or whatever it was, and it wasn't just us. It was I heard on the podcast, a lot of different podcasts last week did, including the Oklahoma Breakdown. Those guys do a fantastic job of taking a former football player's mentality, right, and vision, and seeing things, and even in Gabe's case last week, suggesting things that the offense could do. And something that he was saying was the same thing that in a smaller way that we were saying, or maybe I said that wrong. He was saying it in a better, bigger way than what we were saying. And that is Oklahoma, with its wide receivers, went way more last week, way more 2x2, 3x1 sets where their receivers were spread out wide, 4 wide receivers. Occasionally, the inside receiver was a tight end. Occasionally, they would bring the tight end in and then run some outside zone where they could engage Canick or Caden Helms or somebody like that on a defensive back or on a linebacker, and not on a big, huge defensive end. So I thought that really stood out, the fact that they were doing more true spread formation stuff, and they had their linebackers. They had their tight ends blocking downfield more instead of at the line of scrimmage. I thought that was huge, and that's one of the reasons why Torrey Blaylock was able to, he would make a single read at the line, hit his hole, take off through it, and then the second guy was being blocked at a very high rate. Whether it was a safety on the inside or a defensive end who was responsible for that area, outside linebackers. What I'm trying to say, not defensive end. But they were doing, it was different. It was the same plays. It was the same like handoffs, but it was different blocking up front. And you could tell that everybody just looked more comfortable, including Torrey Blaylock. So did Caden Helms. I thought he had a really nice job on the opening touchdown, the 18-yard touchdown run. He blocked, he came in on the left side, and after Blaylock made his read, right? Okay, there's my hole. Those guys that are fitting the run inside, they're going to be jammed up, so I'm going to pop it outside. Once he did that, you saw Caden Helms block 2 guys, basically block the defensive end into the corner or the safety who had rotated in, and it was just like, okay, so where's that been all year? And credit those guys, credit the coaching staff for evolving. Right? For recognizing that what they were trying to do, what they wanted to do, was not working. And so they made some tweaks, they made some changes. And so credit the coaching staff, for sure. Credit Ben Arbuckle for the creativity and the ability to evolve and adapt as a play caller.
Yeah, it was I know it's not the offensive line or running backs running the football, but it's like the juxtaposition of the play against Texas, where Deion Burks is supposed to be following Jade Knott, and yes, Deion Burks didn't follow it around, but Jade Knott also didn't step in. Like, it feels like that. We talked about it so much from top to bottom. How was that like an idea that anyone thought was really, really good? Your running back that has struggled with any kind of blocking, a guy in Deion Burks who has yet to kind of shake stuff loose. Like, why are you not run that play for Satine? It felt like, I don't know if it's Ben Arbuckle, Bill Bedenbaugh, DeMarco Murray, Emmett Jones, Joe John Finley. If Brent Venables just popped his head in and said, let's bend that and move on to the next one. But I thought it was a really, really mature response from not just the team, and usually we talk about the players. I thought the coaching staff, too, for a young offensive coordinator, veteran assistants around to be able to come back out with a much, much better game plan. I think that stuff that can translate, the way they're going to attack defenses are different, but gives you a lot of confidence there. I also thought, too, we talked, Carson and I were there on Monday night talking to a bunch of the players. John Mateer had a lot to say. Like Derek Simmons, we talked to Derek Simmons and Heath Ozida for the offensive line, and Derek Simmons was like, yeah, we were challenged to be more physical, stuff like that. And finally, Mateer, it's like, okay, everyone wants to be more physical. Everyone always wants to be the most physical football team. We get that. What did it look like? And Mateer said, well, for Ben Arbuckle this week, it was an instruction across the board to hold the whistles longer in practice and make the guys get conditioned to, you have to keep going, keep going, keep going. They want to get that strain out and things like that. And so I thought that was really informative. And Carson, you were over there talking to Heath Ozida on Monday night. What did Heath kind of have to say? Is I thought the OU left guard had probably his best performance of the year as he's slowly had to build his way back up in from missing time with the shoulder cleanup over the offseason.
Yeah, what was most interesting that he had to say was he stressed the importance of the connection between the offensive line and the running backs. Obviously, the big thing usually is offensive line has to be in line with your quarterback. Running backs just as big, he was telling us, and you saw that they had a great connection against South Carolina, shown by Blaylock and Robinson both having good games. He also complimented the maturity of both of those guys, being younger players, but being able to just kind of not over what's the right word that just move past what's already happened, the running game struggles that they've had this year, and just be like, okay, we can be a good unit. The offensive line's gonna get better. Like we can help out this passing offense, take a little pressure off of this passing offense, and find something good there. And that's what they did. And I mean, South Carolina's defense not perfect. They were without Dylan Stewart for most of the game, but it was a huge step in the right direction.
Huge there. And Ryan, when we look at it, I've yet to see like straight up models of like what does this look like. But as we've gotten farther and farther in the week, what started as hey, it might rain overnight from Friday to Saturday, and it's going to be really really wet on the ground, but it's morning showers. Now it's looking more and more like the skies may open up a little bit here on Saturday, and we know this. If it's like a light sprinkle all day long, then it's not really going to affect the passing game. But we also know how it can rain in the state of Oklahoma this time of year. It might be a situation, Aber, where you look at it and John Mateer still ramping his way all the way back. Like this running game might be that much more important if we get into a game that's kind of has a wrench thrown into it by way of the elements as well.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. That if weather winds up being a part of it, OU is going to have to be able to move the football on the ground and more in a traditional sense. And I think that's one of the reasons why last week was such a significant step in the right direction, even if you still wonder just how lasting that improvement is with that group. But yeah, Ole Miss is a team that you oftentimes want to try to shrink the game a little bit, give them fewer offensive possessions. So many times we've seen that on the other side when OU's offenses have been really good. Teams have tried to do that, and I think certainly that's something that Oklahoma is going to try to do. Going back to the last point, I think it was really interesting to hear Ben Arbuckle talk yesterday about some of the stuff that he's learned just from being around Brent Venables that has helped him as an offensive coordinator. We see so many times coaches overthink themselves and not be willing to adapt during the season. Maybe they'll make adjustments from season to season, but a little bit less willing to adapt during the season. And I thought that was a testament to one, Brent Venables and his leadership of this program, but also Ben Arbuckle in the way that he's handled things in a really mature way to be able to tweak things as the season goes on and not be married to exactly what you're going to do.
Are you saying college coaches are hard-headed sometimes and stubborn?
Let's take a look at Josh Heupel in OU Texas when Texas couldn't stop a running quarterback at all, and OU had a running quarterback, and OU decided not to utilize that.
Crazy.
I know. Imagine that.
Couldn't be football coach. I think you're talking about the wrong group of guys, boys. No, you look at it too, and I think that it all adds together. Part of the South Carolina performance that was, I don't think anyone's like dinging it, but it wasn't like an explosive passing attack. The longest completion was the 20-yard touchdown. Well, I think it all pieces together, assuming we're in a spot where this isn't just like a monsoon that kills any kind of passing game. I think that Giovanni Gibson coming on stronger, that might be like the jump ball target or the deep shot target that's not like a Deion Burks or Isaiah Satania runs by guys type of guy. And when you look at it, Ole Miss 119th in the country, tied 119th in tackles for loss. So they're not really getting upfield and making negative plays happen in the run game. what is the best way for a Ben Arbuckle and a John Mateer to feel really, really comfortable about saying like, hey, let's see if Jamani Gibson could go and get a deep ball. Hey, let's see if we could scheme up a play kind of like what you had with Deion Burks at the end of the Texas game where John Mateer hopefully hits it instead of throwing it, airmailing it wide or anything like that. Well, if you're in 2nd and 4 at the plus 40 because you're able to be efficient on first down, whether it be on the ground or in like a quick passing game. We all know this, that's where offensive coordinators have the chance to be a lot more aggressive, especially with Ben Arbuckle knowing like with that Oklahoma defense that Brent Venables is going to give him 4-down territory. You get to field goal range. He's going to be like, we got points. You have a weapon, a guy you can build around in Tate Sandell 2026, Sandell for Heisman. But it all kind of like works together. And I think it's no coincidence, John, that we've not seen like the 20-yard plus play through the passing game. We've seen that. We've talked about through the first 4 weeks how 1/3 of the season and you would have shredded all the record books and all that stuff from a year ago at least. But the big play, oh my gosh, Isaiah Satania 40-yard bomb. Oh my gosh, Jamani Gibson went up and got one on the sideline, stuff like that. Well, that possibility opens up if you're running efficiently early or you have faith that, yeah, if we get into a 3rd and 2, like we can run it, we can throw it, we have all these possibilities. Why not take a deep shot? Why not be aggressive right now?
Yeah, I would say that the deep shot will happen. And I during the course of that South Carolina game, as I was watching here in Broken Arrow in my garage, not in Oxford, but Oxford and Columbia, I was noticing I was like anticipating like the next drive probably OU is going to take a deep shot, right? Because they haven't taken anything deep, 6 yards, 8 yards near the line of scrimmage, outside flat, over the middle a little bit. When are they going to throw it deep? And so I was trying to make a prediction on Twitter. I think OU is probably going to chuck it deep here coming up before the end of the half, and a couple of field position opportunities kind of quelled that a couple of times. But for the most part, it dawned on me probably late second quarter. Oh, OU's not throwing it deep because they don't want to have happen what happened in the end zone against Texas, where John Mateer doesn't have real great accuracy at the moment throwing a deep ball. And they probably, you know what? They probably found that out, guys, during the week of practice when they called a deep shot and his, throw was probably way off. And so John Mateer being at practice last week, what do you know? Revealed something to the coaching staff. Hey, let's not chuck it deep this week until John's thumb gets better. So I thought that, I thought that was brilliant. That's what we were talking about a second ago with coaches being able to adapt. You adapt to your personnel, you adapt to the defense, you adapt to the environment, the setting or the weather or whatever it is. And Ben Arbuckle adapted his game plan. I thought that was fantastic. I thought it was great coaching. And they're able to, dink and dunk in the pass game and run the football effectively. It looked like a completely different offense from what we'd been seeing. And that's something that if you're going to be a team with a great defense, you're going to have to stay on the field, right? You can't be exposing your defense to a bunch of 3-and-outs or turnovers and sticking them back out there where a great defense becomes an average defense because they're playing, 40 minutes out of 60 minutes in a game. So I thought Brent talks all the time about complementary football. I thought that's exactly what we saw to a T in their most complete game as a team so far this season.
You're also moving closer and closer to the initial pre-Dr. Shin mania window where like, hey, this Ole Miss game, that might be the target of a good window to come on back. Feel like John Mateer's growing. Something that Carson, when we were there Monday night, he was kind of asked about, like, has he gone through different versions of the wrap on his thumb? And he's like, yeah, we went through a few, mainly just to feel like what's bulky, what is fine. But I do wonder, Carson, too, it's something Mateer talked about, something that Venables has talked about a bunch, is that if there is like one leadership flaw, and they're not labeling it as like a flaw, it's that John Mateer cares so much and puts so much pressure on himself that sometimes he can be almost weighed down by the weight of expectation and what he wants to do. And Mateer talked about that on Monday, just being like, yeah, it's not that I don't trust my teammates. I put that all on me. And something that Ben Arbuckle, I asked about on Tuesday as well. Can going out there and seeing that you only had to throw for 150 and you still won by 19 points on the road. Granted, it's the worst team you'll play the rest of the way in the regular season, but that has to be a big positive for Mateer to like exhale and realize, yeah, I need to show up and make the play when I need to make the play, but I also don't have to throw an interception on first down because every play doesn't have to be that kind of home run hitter.
No, I agree. It definitely is. I mean, we talked about how impressive it was that Mateer took all the accountability for Texas, even though it would have been very easy to call out the blocking, the run game, the coaching, throwing Mateer in that game. But he owned all of it, and he is someone, like you just said, he has the weight of the world on his shoulders. He knows what he can be, what he has been, what he wants to be for this team. But I think having a game like South Carolina where he didn't put up Heisman numbers. You don't need to do that when you're up 19 points on the road. You're doing enough. You're doing enough. You didn't throw a pick. You hit one deep touchdown to Satania. He played a good game. He didn't play just this highlight reel, oh my gosh, this guy's winning the Heisman game, like a lot of players might try to do after a really rough game against Texas, missing the Kent State game. I think it would be very normal, maybe natural, to try to throw just this highlight reel performance together. Maybe he could have gotten that, but it was just not necessary, and good on Mateer for not trying to make that happen when it just wasn't needed against a limping South Carolina team. The run game was working. The short passes were working. He did exactly what he needed to do. And I think that makes it one of the most impressive games he's had this year, even if his stats don't necessarily say that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think for John Mateer to, one, show that maturity, but two, I think the evolution of this offense and what we saw last week gives John Mateer the ability to work incrementally to get back to where he was early in the season. And if he's back where he was before the injury and the running game and the offensive line take these steps forward, the offense will be significantly better than it was early, where you can pick your spots with Mateer running, where you can try some of those downfield shots that we were just talking about, and you can make this a much more diverse group, whereas before it was rely on John Mateer to do everything, and if he doesn't, you're not going to get anything out of your offense. And I thought really well handled from them. But that's something that they're going to have to continue to do. And I think John Mateer is going to continue to get better and get closer to what we saw early and be able to add some things to that offense. But yeah, that was a really encouraging sign, especially when you look at the schedule that they've got moving forward with these 5 ranked teams sitting in front of them. Now we'll see if those teams are all ranked when those games happen, but still a really tough finish to the season, and it's highlighted when you look at Ole Miss's schedule, for instance, where this is their last game against a ranked opponent after playing 3 out of the last 4.
We're looking at you, LSU. We're looking directly at you, LSU. Are you going to be there? Let us know. It'll be really, really interesting. I'm fascinated. We'll about to flip this around, but that OU offense versus the Ole Miss defense. The Ole Miss defense, 38th in passing defense, but I just genuinely don't know if that's because, like, you look at it and teams have made a lot of money against Ole Miss on the ground. It's kind of like some of the Oklahoma passing defense or Oklahoma rushing defenses a couple years ago, pre-Venables, where it's like, the passing defense was so bad, if a team needed to line up in 3rd and 2 and pick it up on the ground, they could, but the rushing numbers were helped. Everyone's like, why run when we can just take all the free points, all the free money, all the free yards through the air? So we'll see there. They've not done Ole Miss a very good job of pressuring the quarterback in the hundreds of sacks, 119 in tackles for losses, like we've said, 98th in rushing defense. And it's some names that, like, people should recognize up front, too. I mean, Will Eccles, Xavier Harris, Prince Will is still bounced around for Ole Miss. It's just not really popped off for people in that crew. But it also is part of it, like, we've been through this before, Aber. We talked about shortening the game. We've also been through when your offense is so explosive and the other side of the ball wants to be so physical, that can almost hurt your defense as well, because Oklahoma and this defense been fantastic so far, but this is by far, I think, the toughest test for the Sooners as Lane Kiffin comes to town and everything that Lane Kiffin brings when it just comes to play calling, a guy that like notoriously Hugh Freeze needs to script up as many plays as possible. Lane Kiffin's just like, no, I can just see what's happening and make stuff happen. And he's got a quarterback that he really, really trusts. It's not the guy he started with, but Trinidad Chambliss coming in and the Ferris State. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but he did start his football career at Ferris State. That has been brought up. He has quickly entered. Sam Ehlinger was a Texas fan territory. Josh Dobbs is an aerospace engineering major. Like he has entered the pantheon of quarterbacks where we're just hammering one thing. But as Brent Venables said yesterday, John, he's an excellent passer and he runs just enough to piss you off.
Yeah, he's not in the Colt McCoy, Jordan Shipley area yet, where like every broadcast, that's all they talk about, the entire Texas broadcast, or the Ryan Williams, only 17 years old. He's not entered that echelon yet, where literally
Ryan Williams was 17 years old last year.
Can you believe that? 17 years old.
I hadn't heard that.
Never heard that before. But yeah, you're right. It's a good story. It's a great story. He's got a great name. He plays great football. It's been very interesting. The SEC's got a couple of these guys that kind of come out of nowhere. 3 guys that kind of come out of nowhere and are standing out at the quarterback position, the most important position on the field. So there's a lot on the OU defense this week. But I went from being kind of skeptical. Like one of my big complaints in the Texas game was that you collapsed defensively for, I think it was a stretch of 4 out of 5 defensive possessions, 4 out of 5 Texas possessions, where your defense was just, you couldn't get off the field. You couldn't get a stop on third down at all. It was a disaster. And that ended up getting them beat. I was out at that point in the season on the OU defense. Well, guess who's back in on the OU defense after watching them play South Carolina? Guys, South Carolina in that game, 72 yards on their opening possession, and they didn't even score. And they got 60 yards almost on their last possession, and they didn't even score. So the one possession that they did score, where Faison slipped that run at the line of scrimmage, 30, 38 yards, 36 yards, whatever it was. OU had, go back and look at that play. OU had 10 men in the box. Okay. You had motion out here on the corner, on the edge, brought the cornerback in. And so you had literally 10 guys standing in the box. The only deep one was about 7 yards deep, was Peyton Bowen. Now, how do you get a 40-yard run or whatever with 10 men in the box? Because everybody's getting in everybody's way trying to tackle the guy. And that's kind of what happened. The motion man went behind the formation, and you saw both safeties, Peyton Bowen and RJ, both went with the motion man, cleared the space in the background, in the backfield, and all of a sudden, he slipped through there and had to get chased down. But both Kobe and Kip missed the run fit, and it's like that was like the only play that South Carolina hit that was like shocking. Like you're sitting here going, okay, they went 72 on their first drive, and they just hit them for a touchdown drive, missed what should have been an easy run play. And that was it. South Carolina got nothing the rest of the way. South Carolina, not great offensively, I'll give you that. But boy, the way they talked up Lenora Sellers all week, the way everybody talks up Lenora Sellers all week, I thought it was going to be more of a contest. And because of that defense, which is now, this morning I looked it up, number 1 in the nation, total defense, number 2 in scoring defense, number 3 in run defense, and number 4 in pass defense. If they were to finish in the top 4 in all 4 of those big 4 categories, that's really, really rare air, guys.
We'll see. It's South Carolina stinks. Laura Sellers is good, but the number of plays, it looked like Jackson Arnold last year of snap, 1 second, 3 guys in his face, which is a credit to Oklahoma for taking advantage of a terrible South Carolina offensive line. But
which I didn't do the week before against Texas. Remember how bad Texas offensive line has played all year, and then all of a sudden against OU they graded out. You saw the PFF grades; they graded out like 90% against Oklahoma. Like what?
A Texas offensive line that couldn't do anything against Kentucky in 1 week, and that's what. Go back to Oklahoma's offensive line. You can have a really good showing. Now you need to build on it. We saw Texas have a really good showing against a great elite defense. Didn't build on it whatsoever. That'll be the test for Oklahoma. But when you look at Ole Miss's offense, Carson, so much of it, it's a little bit different than it's been in years past because usually they got like stud tight end, stud wide receiver 1, stud running back. They've got really good running back but it's kind of by committee when it comes to wide receiver, which I think in some ways, if you have Cam Coleman, be a Cam Coleman, attack that. But for this Oklahoma defense, I think that the teams that would have more success in the pass game are the ones that are comfortable to spread it around, because then there's nothing that you're doing as far as rolling one extra guy over to Cam Coleman or stuff like that. And that's where if Chambliss is able to kind of scan and thrive under pressure, you saw that the Georgia defense, not what it has been these last couple of years, but Ole Miss was able to dial up, what was it, 4 or 5 straight scoring drives there to start that thing. I'm really fascinated. I can't wait. Part of the thing I'm loving, Carson, about this season is getting the straight up. There's no veiled what's happening here. It is Brent Venables versus Steve Sarkisian. Brent Venables versus Lane Kiffin. Brent Venables versus Joey Halls, but it's Josh Hyatt. Like, I can't wait to see these guys just getting after it and going for it.
No, yeah, I'm with you on that. Last week was the first time that OU had really played against a proven, really good quarterback. This is OU's first time facing a quarterback that's proven really good and has an offensive line that isn't Swiss cheese. I mean, they're really good offensively just because of how good Trinidad Chambliss has been immediately. Kewan Lacey adds something in the run game. They have like 3 to 4 receivers that are really quality, Caden Lee being kind of the main target usually. This is a high-flying offense shown by what they did. I mean, Sanford Stadium in Athens is not an easy place to play. Georgia, time and time again, has great defenses, even if this isn't the best Georgia defense that we've seen in the last decade. Still a very good defense and a really tough place to play. Ultimately, Kirby Smart did Kirby Smart things in the end of that game. They got the win, but 35 points against Georgia's no joke. And OU's defense, I mean, if they play like they did against South Carolina, that puts them in a really good position. It just might, it will, I'm not going to say might, it will be more than 7 points, even if OU's defense plays at the level that it did against South Carolina. It's just a different animal. But the good news, Ole Miss's defense, definitely some good qualities, but run defense, not so great. And that sets up well, just as far as trying to even out some of those sparks that Ole Miss, they're inevitably going to get. Good defenses are going to allow good offenses to make big plays. That's football. But I think it's going to be more points than a lot of the games we've seen so far.
Carson, Brent was asked about just Lane Kiffin and what makes him so good on the teleconference. You kind of wrote about that. What did Brent have to say about Lane? Because Lane has a lot to say about everyone always, and we can dive into, I guess, the worst kept secret in college football here in a second. Well, before we do that, what did Brent have to say about Lane?
Yeah, no shade toward Lane Kiffin on the teleconference this morning. Really complimented the coordinator that he was at Alabama. Obviously, he faced off against Brent Venables at when he was at Alabama. Venables was at Clemson, played twice in the national championship game. Since then, they played last year as head coaches for Ole Miss and OU. And he just emphasized how versatile his offenses always are. This is a year, for example, they lost Henry Parrish Jr., Jackson Dart. A lot of people, myself included, okay, is this team going to kind of fall off a little bit? Is their offense going to sputter? That hasn't been the case. They found a new thing with a good young quarterback, found players outside of him to support him. And Venables highlighted all of those things that essentially Kiffin's already played the game before game day, just as far as what could happen, what kind of schemes he's going to bring to the game. Just really praised him. And I mean, the record backs it up. That was a program that was kind of fading in terms of SEC competitiveness before Lane Kiffin took that job. Since 2020, when Kiffin joined the staff, they are 50-19. I don't know off top of my head how that compares to other programs, but I mean, that has to be top 3 or 4 in the conference. I mean, that's really impressive in a place like Oxford to do that. So obviously, Venables very complimentary of Kiffin.
Yeah, I'm curious, Aber. You look back at that matchup where Kiffin OC at Bama v. Venables. OJ Howard went nuts. I know that OJ Howard's like a alien when it comes to talent at the tight end spot. What killed Oklahoma on the opening drive of the first half and the second half a year ago in Oxford? Danny Stutzman, who we love and is excellent, still can't cover a tight end. That'll be interesting to see. Does Oklahoma figure this thing out? Because Daquan Wright, another 6'4" tight end weapon for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. That's going to be the question for me. Can Oklahoma figure this thing out?
Yeah, I think no doubt about it. And you talk about the diversity of Ole Miss's offense, especially in the passing game. what is it? Five receivers, I think, for them who are between 400 yards and 289 yards through the air. So they certainly like to spread it around. And I think this is a challenge for Oklahoma that even though they played some good offenses in it's Texas and Michigan and Auburn to some extent, this is a different one because of the diversity of the offense, the uh, innovation of Lane Kiffin, who is as about as good as anybody in college football at taking advantage of and identifying areas of a defense that are soft, that are maybe not as apparent right off the top. And I think that's one of the things that makes him so good there. So yeah, I think slowing down Daquan Wright is certainly at the top of the list for Oklahoma as far as identifying targets. But that secondary, I think, is going to be tested in a way across the board that they haven't been, where generally teams have sort of picked on one guy back there and taking their chances elsewhere. This is going to be sort of an across the board effort that they're going to have on Saturday to be successful.
Here's the good news. Brent Venables does use that cheetah position a lot to try and help things happen over the middle of the field. And it's someone or a position group that was spoken about a lot yesterday during Brent Venables' press conference, talking about Kendall Daniels, talking about Reggie Powers, trying to get information on Kendall Dolby, which is actually the reason all those questions were asked. We were trying to Trojan horse, is Kendall Dolby going to be playing the rest of the year? We'll get to that here in a second. But it's something that Brent Venables talked about. I think, John, that there's a real level of comfort to have Wes Goodwin, who has coached with Venables for a really, really long time, who's in charge of that cheetah group, on top of the fact that you have Kendall Daniels, who's legitimately he was made to play this position. He can actually cover in space and do everything in the running game. You've got Reggie Powers, who I think's been fantastic for Oklahoma. And I think it was low key massive that terrible flag that was thrown for targeting was actually overturned, because I think he's going to be a big piece of what's going on for Oklahoma defensively. And it's, Brent Venables talked about it's clearly the best cheetah group since they've been back at Oklahoma. And I think that's going to be this is the start of this week and next week, Ole Miss and Tennessee. Those are going to be really, really, really important moments, especially while we wait. Wednesday night is our first availability report. We'll get the first update on Gentry Williams that has not kind of been issued. After the game, Brent Venables said it was positive. He cleared all the scans and stuff, but does that mean he's back in the lineup this week? We'll see. You feel pretty good about Eli Bowen, Guillory, the rotation that they've got there, Jacoby Johnson, all that stuff. But if you can get Gentry back, then it feels like, as far as the back end goes, this is the best equipped Oklahoma's been to try and stop an offense like this.
Yeah, and the cheetah position this week is going to be huge for that, because they're so versatile. Ole Miss is, and so explosive. So having Kendall Daniels on the field and playing at a level that he's playing at right now. It's funny. I think it was our buddy Parker Thune who said, that here's the Sooners' best defender, and then I threw out 5 other guys that could be considered the Sooners' best defender. And when I collected all the names and put them out there, I forgot Kendall Daniels, and he's playing right now as well as anybody. And so he's seen it all. From all the positions that he played at Oklahoma State, all the snaps that he played at Oklahoma State, he's seen it all. He's done it all. He seems to know what's coming with some good regularity. I think he's got a good relationship with Wes Goodwin, in that they've, Wes has this, we haven't gotten a ton of exposure to him, but one of the book on him when he got here was he's got this photographic memory, right? And he can recall literally anything that football kind of like Lincoln Riley used to do. He can recall football plays and specific instances and downs and distance and stuff like that. And I think he's been able to a large degree to communicate what's the demands of the upcoming offense, who they're playing this week, what are the tendencies. I think he's been able to communicate that with Kendall Daniels, and I think that's one of the reasons why that position has stood out so much this year.
Also, that was interesting too that Brent talked about that younger days, Brent Venables, the DC, would be we are doing this,
yeah,
and everyone get on board with the plan. And now You've got a lot more collaboration. I think that's important for, and he talked about it, but Brandon Hall, a guy that's been a defensive coordinator before at Troy. Wes Godwin, who obviously took over at Clemson after Brent. Nate Dreiling, who's been his own guy, head guy last year, stuff like that. I think that Brent talked about growing as a head coach, being a little bit older, and probably just the experience that comes with it of knowing, like, I'm still Brent Venables. I'm still the best DC in all the land. And if Miguel Chavis has a suggestion for me, I'd be dumb not to at least hear it out and think it through, that kind of thing. But Bates has been with him forever. Valai has now been with him this entire time here. Chavis has been with them forever and continues to grow and grow and grow. I think it makes all the sense in the world why Brent Venables is like, yeah, we've invited a more collaborative approach here, because it's still going to be Brent making the call, but the way that you have so many different pieces that have worked with Venables and away from Venables and back and things like that, I think it shows that that's a really, really positive step for just Oklahoma and Brent Venables, the coach. And not that that's like a new thing this year, but it shows you're still seeing growth from this group, which is what the coaches ask that from the players every single week to get like this much better, this much better, this much better. I think that's certainly a good thing. And it's a good thing, Carson, because I know you weren't there at Oxford last year, but that was like imagine that tight end over the middle, over and over and over and over again. It's like, why did Lane Kiffin stop doing that? That was the only time that things looked like it was in perils, when Jackson Dart wasn't throwing over the middle to a tight end.
Yeah, I think it's really impressive just looking at Texas game to South Carolina game, the adjustments made. And I know Brent Venables talked about this being the best defensive staff he's ever been a part of anywhere, whether that's at Clemson, whether that's when he was Oklahoma's defensive coordinator ages ago. Just that's a really high bar to clear. And I think it's evident, though, just seeing, okay, the defense not necessarily the reason that OU lost the game against Texas, but it wasn't its best. And then seeing it again at its best against a good quarterback, a bad offense, even so, just that dominant of a performance against just about anybody, that's impressive. And it really goes to show just the collaboration that these coaches have. I think the additions of Dreiling and Goodwin were both huge in the offseason. Then you have veterans like Chavis, Bates, or really just experienced group, guys that have known Venables for a while. I mean, that just really does create this collective product that I think has been a big part. Obviously, a lot of talent on this defense, but the guidance from this collaboration, I think that's just been a massive part of this defense's success.
And then the final piece of this, I'm really interested. We've seen Tate Sandell shake off an early miss and be perfect since then. We've seen Tate Sandell handle the pressure of the Cotton Bowl. We've seen Tate Sandell go on the road and kick an SEC play. We've not seen Tate Sandell kick in the rain, Ryan, and it feels like we're getting closer and closer to that being the only other check mark before I will launch the Tate Sandell Heisman Trophy camp. I'll do it. If OU doesn't want to do it, I'll do it.
Yeah, just Tate Sandell has just been fantastic, and we heard some things from Brent Venables before the season that made you think, hey, maybe this guy's a little bit better than what we maybe thought. But at the same time, Brent Venables and that staff was sort of talking up everybody in the offseason, so you didn't know what to believe, what not to believe. But after that initial miss against Michigan, Tate Sandell has just been phenomenal. And, it hasn't been chip shots. He's hit, 4 or 5, 49 yards or longer for him. And, yeah, the only thing he hasn't, two things that he hasn't done. We haven't seen him kick in the rain, and we haven't seen him, kick a game winner, in the closing seconds. And those are about the only two things that he's yet to do. But, OU's had some good kickers, but this seems to be the most confident they've been in a kicker in quite some time, especially late in the season, because even some of those good kickers, you think back to, Gabe Burkich and some of the struggles that he had, late in his last season. And Tate Sandell it looks like he's continuing to get better rather than sort of wearing down or, losing his confidence.
Free tip. In the Arab NIL, I know that it is appetizing, enticing to bring in your kicker and do some NIL style stuff, especially on a bye week. Tate Sandell, do not, I'm looking right at you. do not upset the Tex-Mex gods. Don't do it. Don't kick a burrito. Your career will be over. It's done. Don't touch a food. Don't kick it. Don't kick it. Don't do it. That is all I have there as far as that goes. It is Ole Miss week, boys, which means we can't get in and out without Lane Kiffin, whether he intentionally does it or not, inserting himself into the week that is. A couple weeks ago, he was asked about like the permanent rivals thing, and I don't know if Oklahoma fans felt slighted or not, but he basically was like, we don't have any history with them. He's right. This is only the third time ever. First time that Ole Miss will be in Norman. I think he was basically saying, like, we've played a bunch of SEC teams over and over and over again. We've played Oklahoma twice. Like, there's not, like, any kind of rivalry there. I thought that was fine. He also rolled out there when talking about Brent Venables about that they've got the signs as far as everything goes. Again, I don't know why this became a thing because, first of all, Lane Kiffin did not accuse Brent Venables of doing anything illegally or wrong or anything like that. Sign stealing is not illegal. The way that Michigan stole the signs, which is going way, way ahead of time, being on Central Michigan's sideline, all that stuff, that is illegal. It has long been known that Brent Venables is one of the sport's prolific sign stealers, which is, I actually, what I took out of that comment, John, was I thought it was more funny the thought process of Hugh Freeze knowing this and never changing his signs than what Lane Kiffin had to say about like Brent Venables and do we change our signs and hand signals and all that stuff.
Yeah, Hugh Freeze's response to Lane Kiffin was, "What? Those are our signs. Those are our signals. That they work for me. Why would I change them? I'm a football coach." You know, Brent actually started this whole thing on Sunday. I don't know if you saw his kind of the replay show with we used to call the replay show, where he's in studio, which is now actually his office. With Toby Rowland. And Brent was paying Lane Kiffin a compliment saying he's really, really good at communicating to the quarterback through the headset. And then when the headset goes off at 15 seconds left on the play clock, he's really good at getting that last little bit of information through, you know, whatever kind of hand signals they're doing or signs or whatever they're holding up. Maybe he reads lips. I don't know. But whatever he's doing in those last 15 seconds after the radio has shut off, Brent said he's really, really good at getting that last bit of information to his quarterbacks. And then the quarterback gets it to the team. So I thought when Lane came out Monday, a day later, and said, if Venables is really, really good at, you know, picking up signals or you know, he didn't quite say that, but he said getting the information, whatever you're doing, if you're over here jumping a route or, you know, diagnosing the offense, he's really good. He's always been really good at that. I thought they were paying each other just normal football coach compliments. Like the chess match that we play on the field that you guys see is actually played in the staff room during the week. You know, here's what we're doing and here's what they're going to do to counter. And when they counter, here's what we're going to do to counter. I thought they were just doing what smart, gifted, maybe football coaches do, and that is, you know, hey, he's good at this, and then the other guy says, well, you know what, he's good at this. So I thought that was cool. I thought it was really good. And then, you know, it turns into Oklahoma steals signs. They've cheated all these years. They've been everybody steals signs. Every coach, when the other coach is signaling something in, every coach on the sideline, doesn't matter which team, they're all looking and seeing, you know, what's he signaling? Okay, now what are they playing? And they're trying to pick up hints and clues and tips. There's nothing wrong with any of it.
Sorry, Ryan.
I was just gonna say, if you pay attention to Pat Forty, every year in the playoff before Clemson played, it happened with Notre Dame, happened with Alabama. There is always a story that comes out of media day, which is Notre Dame is going to huddle to try and offset Clemson's ability to catch signs. Alabama's going to huddle. Like, it's not a bad thing, folks. It's just like Brent Venables is excellent at very, very. It goes all the way back to Aber. I know that you were in this press conference a couple years ago where he talks about like he studies the body language of the opposing quarterback and the body language of the opposing wide receiver and the body, because he wants to try to like know your enemy, Sun Tzu, stuff like that. He also is good at, like, if he sees a sign that's on the broadcast copy, he's also going to like find the sign and be like, hey, can we double check that means that they're throwing a post here? Yes? Can we do that? Please and thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a poker player, you know, reading his opponent and figuring out tells.
Yep.
And Brent Venables is really good at that. And then just the straight signs. I mean, one, there's a reason why every team now has somebody holding up big screens behind their guys who are signaling to keep that stuff limited as much as you can. But to me, this is the difference between, say, Brent Venables is a runner at second, signaling to the batter that, hey, a fastball away is coming here, versus the Houston Astros in the trash can.
Yeah.
That is, Connor Stallions and all of that. So this is within the framework of the sport to do. And, I think Brent Venables has been fantastic about it. I think Brent Venables was being sincere when he was talking about Lane Kiffin. And just to take a detour there, Lane Kiffin has changed his reputation, his image, I think, as well as just about anybody I can ever remember in sports.
Yep.
I don't know how you feel, Chapman, being a Raiders guy, but Lane Kiffin had this really bad reputation as a guy who was hated for any other team besides the one he was coaching for, and well deserved. Was a pretty big jerk, I think, early in his career. But I think he's turned into one of the more fun guys to one, he always seems like he has off the wall things to say, but two, I think he's fun and interesting to hear talk about the sport, his team, and the state of college football as a whole, for some of the things he says, because he doesn't give the company line like Brent Venables gave yesterday about playing Ole Miss. And I'm not saying Brent Venables was being disingenuous there, but Lane Kiffin isn't going to filter his stuff, and it's much more entertaining the way he's not filtering it now versus early in his career.
He rocks. I love Lane Kiffin. I don't care. That was Al Davis, not Lane. That was an Al Davis issue. But here's the thing with Lane, and what I appreciate with Lane is, and sometimes we get this, sometimes not. The college football, multi-billion-dollar business. You got to win. It's a big money sport. I get it. At some point, somewhere along the line, sports were fun for everyone, which is why we like watching it. It's why we all love it enough that we decided we want to spend every single day writing about it, thinking about it, creating content about it, all that stuff. And right now, to me, Lane Kiffin is the greatest example of, in the heat of battle, he's able to walk over and throw an alley-oop to his players on the basketball goal on the sideline. He's able to mess with one of the referees, being like, I was clapping after he calls a timeout against Georgia. And on top of that, everything we've talked about, the big Stribling touchdown against the Bulldogs this past weekend, I thought that Fowler and Herbie on the broadcast did a really good job of highlighting, look, 10 seconds before the snap, Lane is over there waving, jumping up and down, signals like this, which was obviously a last-minute signal to Trinidad Chambliss of throw the ball here. We've got the coverage we want right here. Stribling gets inside, makes one move, runs everybody to the end zone, powers through at the goal. It's you can have fun and also be really, really good at your job. Now, can you have fun if you don't win everything immediately, if you're coaching in a swamp instead of near a grove? We might find out here in a little bit. But for right now, what he's got at Ole Miss, and that's why I kind of appreciate that we've talked about this vacuum of Mike Leach, of who can fill. There's portions of Drink, portions of Lane Kiffin, portions of a Signetti in a different way, stuff like that, trying to fill the Spurrier Leach vacuum. And I appreciate that we still have personalities in college football, in a sport in college athletics that has run off so many of the old heads because it's just a disaster to coach in right now.
Ryan, I thought that what you're talking about with Al Davis was one of the sadder moments in a long, sad chapter of the final days of Al Davis as the owner of the Raiders, when he said Lane Kiffin was not the coach that we thought we were hiring. Isn't that a you thing? Shouldn't you know who you're hiring? Shouldn't you know who you're getting if you're bringing in? I get it. You've been a dictator of that regime for 50 years, and you're now 140 years old. But you need to be aware of who you're hiring. And when you hire a kid at the time, by the name of Lane Kiffin just because his dad has Monty Kiffin, has the reputation that he had in the NFL as a defensive mind. Hey, let's hire his kid. And then you have to fire him because he wasn't the coach that you thought you were hiring. That was sad. And I don't think the Raiders they weren't good before that, but I don't think they've been very consistently competitive in any stretch since they got rid of Lane Kiffin. Not saying Kiffin is a direct correlation to winning. I'm just saying the way that moment collapsed for the Raiders out from underneath them, they haven't been able to bounce back.
That's where you're wrong. They have been consistent. Just look at the standings year over year. They're in the same spot every single year. It's also poetic that Kiffin came off the Carroll tree, and now you flip it around, and Mark Davis hired the devil. Pete Carroll, and now look where it's gone well.
Who do you like more? Do you like Pete Carroll more, or do you like Brian Kelly more?
What I think Pete Carroll's a better person, probably.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt about it because I've heard some not great things about Brian Kelly, the person. And I have had some experience with Pete Carroll when he coached USC. He brought his team to Arkansas, was incredibly open, and just seemed to be fun to be around and seemed to be really connect to some of those guys around him. So not saying Pete Carroll's a saint for sure, but on balance, I think it's pretty clear.
He runs a pretty loose ship media-wise. You should have seen him at the 04 Orange Bowl. My gosh. We've never seen access like that. We still haven't seen access like that. It's legendary.
This is sort of an inside baseball type of thing, but when USC came to Arkansas to play, that would have been 05 or 06, I can't remember. He had an availability on the day before the game, Friday, for visiting media.
Yeah.
And it was just unlike anything I'd ever seen then. And, that was a completely different media landscape than we're living in now. So it's just mind blowing to think, some of the things that he did, and obviously had a great sports information director there. Was it Joe Tessitore, I think?
Tim Tessalone.
Tessalone.
Yeah. Tim was great.
Yeah. So
they went from that. Think about this. They went from that eventually to Lincoln Riley. I remember when Riley got hired, a bunch of LA reporters were saying, they were telling me, I was having conversations with them. So we're going to, he's going to have open practices. I was like, you don't understand who you're getting with Lincoln Riley. You don't understand the level of paranoia. They're like, no, John, this is LA. If he does that out here, it'll blow up in his face. And I was like, he's going to do it in LA. It doesn't matter where Lincoln Riley is. He's going to do that. He's going to rein in the program and tighten up and paranoia everywhere. And
yeah, we'll go back to talking about that, security guard budget that we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Exactly.
Which did you have the pleasure of? The 2005 70-17 romp that happened at the Coliseum, or the 2006 50-14 beatdown?
Yeah.
Well, both. But 06 was the one that was in Arkansas, in Fayetteville, and was, it's hard to call that game competitive, but certainly was more competitive than the year before, because that game was, it was,
vacated. The year before was vacated, Aber. It's officially, there's an asterisk by it on the Wikipedia page.
I saw it in person. It happened. I promise.
What year was that first one? 06?
05, 06 was the whole
05. So it was that's right. That was the same weekend that I think OU went out and played UCLA, because I was thinking about going to that game, and instead I watched it in my hotel room on TV. I think that's the same weekend, because I was like, why would I not go watch the Razorbacks take on USC in the Coliseum? And thankfully I didn't make it out. 70-14. Woo.
Not great.
It was, and it was worse than that, if you can imagine that. The score did not reflect how much of a difference there were between those teams. And by the way, September 17th, 2005 was OU at UCLA, and September 17th, 2005, same day, was that 70-17 game.
Yeah,
Well,
we had an early kickoff, and I think they kicked off late. So
we have experience with that.
They did. It was 28-7 by the end of the first quarter, and didn't get any better from there. I think the only thing that went well for Arkansas is Marcus Monk caught a touchdown early. I think a lot of people know him for his brother, Marcus, excuse me. I'm completely blanking on Monk, the basketball player's last name or first name for Kentucky.
Malik Monk.
Malik Monk. Thank you. But yeah, it was just crazy. Matt Leinart just went off. But the one of the quarterbacks for Arkansas in that game was a guy named Alex Mortensen, who is dad Chris, everybody knows, but also is the interim coach now at UAB.
UAB, where Brent's son is the strength coach. It all comes back. Dude, I've got to close the book on the Pete Carroll portion. Apologies to everyone for that.
In a very abrupt turn here.
But Oklahoma fans know a little bit about games that are like bad, but not even that bad. Just ask Texas A&M and look around going, what is happening? Why are we taking knees here just to keep them out? But
should we just talk about Bixby and Enid now too?
Yeah, good.
92-0. Are you kidding me?
Saturday, 11 a.m. It'll be a big one too. It feels like Oklahoma has battled back to the point where if you win your home games, then you're at least going to have an argument. You're going to have a chance. There are a couple of SEC teams last year that were sitting at 9-3, and if you hadn't had like the ACC, where if SMU had just beat Clemson in the ACC championship game and knocked them out instead of letting them in, you might have had your first 9-3 team pop into the CFP. We'll see. It'll be interesting too. It feels like, regardless of what happens the rest of the year, for as far as cleaning up paths for Oklahoma, you're probably looking at the Big 12 and pick one of the unbeaten teams and say, just beat everybody else. Just ride out the way. Try to give everybody else a couple of losses. Same thing out in the ACC. Pick your poison between Virginia or Georgia Tech. You should probably pick the Yellow Jackets, and you should just try to ride that team the rest of the way. And I think that's going to clear out paths if you're looking for as many SEC teams as possible. We had some the first CFP rankings won't come out till the Tuesday following Tennessee, so we're still two Tuesdays away from that, November 4th. But some of the, like, if you look at the Bill Connolly SP Plus resume rankings right now, it would be Oklahoma at Georgia Tech for like an opening round CFP. There's an Oklahoma at Notre Dame out there off of the it's not might be Kelly Ford. Either way, one of the advanced stats that is trying to separate stuff. It all starts this weekend though for Oklahoma and Ole Miss. For Ole Miss, this is the end of their long stretch. For Oklahoma, it's kind of the beginning of their stretch here, with one bye week slid in there. So we'll all be there, hanging out, doing everything that you need to do. OklahomaSoonersOnSI.com is the place you need to be all the rest of the week. Plus, 11 a.m., we'll have the live blog up. We'll have everything humming here from Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium. Hopefully a dry Memorial Stadium, but we will see. Elsewhere, before we get out of here, OklahomaSoonersOnSI.com. You want to head there or to Hoover's YouTube page, John Hoover Media. Why do you want to do that on Wednesday? Well, we'll have the availability report this evening, but we also have Oklahoma Women's Basketball Media Day. We will be closing down shop here, and a bunch of us heading over that way. We'll get to talk with Reagan Beers, Peyton Verhulst, Sahara Williams. We can talk with Leah Chavez, Ginny Bronchek, obviously. I will be asking the hard-hitting question that everyone has on top of their mind. Ginny, when did you become so proficient at the claw machine? If you saw the videos and the content coming out from SEC Media Day, Ginny Bronchek, elite claw machine head coach. She might be the best in the SEC, so we'll see on that. But looking forward to it. We'll have a little bit of open practice, open gym, that kind of stuff. It looks like Oklahoma in their secret scrimmage, which we have full box scores from and reporting on because it's a secret, went and scrimmaged Baylor on the women's side of things. Chavez had a really nice day. It sounds like Reagan Beers, Peyton Verhulst, what you would expect. They're preseason top 6 in both ESPN and the AP poll. And what does that get you in the SEC, boys? fourth behind Texas, LSU, and South Carolina because it's the SEC. Why not? So looking forward to bouncing over there. We'll have plenty of coverage. Carson's going to have all the videos. Aber, Brady, and I, like all four of us will be there. So there'll be plenty of content coming out. And then tomorrow night, Thursday, as you're listening to this, Battle Series action out at Love's Field. I'll be on hand for that as well with a live file. Those things aren't broadcasted. So if you want to know inning by inning, I give updates for every half inning. Then at the end of the night, I'll do a 3 takeaways. Aber's done the same thing. You know the drill. Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com on the softball side of things. Boys, other than that, have we missed anything? Men's Basketball Media Day tentatively next week. So we'll re-rack. By the time we speak next Wednesday, we'll probably have some Men's Basketball Media Day action for you. So that should be good there. What else is going on in the world of OU? I'm trying to think. You've got concert for homecoming. Carson, what do we got?
If Ole Miss doesn't wear the powder blue helmets on Saturday, it's a crime. That's all I want to say. Really excited for this game. But those are top 5 helmets in college football, in my opinion. Do the right thing, Rebels. Wear those. Would be an awesome uniform matchup. All I got to say.
I concur.
We were robbed last year.
I'm pretty sure it is right up there with UCLA as my favorite helmet in college football.
Yeah, last year we got the Navy set, which is like fine. Navy doesn't get me out of the bed in the morning, though. The powder blues do. As simple as that. Powder blues do. Hoove, notoriously great at telling colors apart. What are your thoughts on the uniform matchup this weekend?
Yeah, being infamously colorblind. No, I'm not that colorblind. I enjoy a good uniform. I'm with Ryan Aber. When UCLA brings out the right shade of blue, it's fantastic. I love it. When they goof around, come on.
Yeah, not unsubscribed there. But we will be on hand Saturday, like we said. Plenty more to come all the rest of the week. Availability reports, the Gentry Williams update, that'll happen tonight about 7:15, 7:20. Just roll up to the site, Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com. I'll have everything for you there. Plenty more content leading into the weekend, including, like we said, the women's basketball situation. And then Saturday, bright and early, 11 a.m., turning back the clock to the Big 12 days. A big-time matchup. Only the 5th top 10 matchup, or top 10 opponent, excuse me, coming to Norman since Ohio State rolled into town. 3 of those 5 have happened in the last 2 seasons. That, my friends, is why you moved to the Southeastern Conference. Other than that, though,
one of those were Big 12 games, even before that. So
yeah, well, and shout out to the Big 12. It's the group of 5 team you elevated up in. Gary Patterson, stand up. We support you.
Yeah, talking about sign stealing.
Yeah.
But
we don't do that, Abe. It's not allowed. Not allowed. No. Shout out to Gary. All right. Next time we talk.
How did he steal signs so efficiently while he's always tying his shoes? That's what I never could figure out.
Well, with him, I was more talking about him getting upset at Baker Mayfield stealing his signs. Even though they didn't change their signs from when that group, Sonny Cumbie, was at Texas Tech. You remember that whole back and forth?
I do remember that. I remember Baker also hitting, was it a Baylor player in the head with a football in the pregame warm-ups?
It was a TCU player.
Was it TCU? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
they ran through the line. And then Trevor Knight tried to play quarterback for a whole half, and that went as well as everyone thought it would. Anyway, all right, we've gone down memory lane too many times. We'll save the rest of memory lane for the bye week. Aber, Carson, we'll talk to you on Saturday, post-game pod, all that fun stuff, as we wrap up everything from Oklahoma and Ole Miss, a massive, massive one in SEC play. Until then, for Hoop, for Carson, for Aber, we'll talk to you guys on Saturday.